You are now entering the horror sanctum.
Hello and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay with John, Kellen, and TJ. And this week we're going to be discussing one of my favorite horror films of 2023 so far, When Evil Lurks, which is directed by Damien Rugna. I hope I said that correctly. Forgive me if I did not. Before we get into it, obviously, whenever we have a newer movie, technically any movie at all, there are spoilers involved in this show. We can't help that. So if you haven't seen it and you intend on seeing it, skip us for now and come back later. If not, here we go. So synopsis is: the residents of a small rural town discover that a demon is about to be born among them. They're desperately trying to escape, but it might be too late.
All right, yeah. So When Evil Lurks. This was one that's kind of been talked about a lot lately. Seems like it's gotten the rounds, gotten the hype, just like kind of like Talk to Me, kind of like a lot of these movies lately. It's really, the hype train has grown so much with this film. I coming out of it, my first reaction is solid, very, very good horror film. Very good horror film. It's kind of hard to rate this one because this is not really a movie you enjoy or you find like enjoyment from. So I wouldn't say that. The three key things I would say at first is: one, did I enjoy it? No, I did not enjoy it. Two, would I watch it again? No, I would not watch it again. Three, was it a really good, brutal horror film? Absolutely. Fucking great as far as that's concerned. Really well done. I think the interesting thing about the movie is that watching it, I can tell already that it's going to be a film, like a lot of foreign films, it's going to be remade. Just like Let the Right One In, I can tell this is one that's going to get remade, right? Yeah, I give it 2-3 years. Warner Brothers, somebody's going to get the rights to it. They're going to remake it. Will it be better? Will it be the same? I don't know, but they're gonna try. This movie is very brutal though from the get-go. I mean, it comes in hot. You don't really know exactly what's happening. You know that there's evil and that there's this there's basically this evil rotten thing that exists and they're trying to get rid of it. And in the movie, at first, it's in the form of this big, large man, Ariel. I think Ariel's his name. And he kind of looked like the fat vampire in Blade. If you remember the vampire in Blade, when Blade's like flashing the ultraviolet rays on the vampire, that's kind of what it reminded me of. Really cool, really good effects. Like all the kills in this movie are brutal. They're really good. They're shocking. Holy shit. There's so many things that happen in this movie. It's like if you're easily offended, do not watch this movie. Every few minutes, there's something more offensive to the point to where at the end, you're almost desensitized because you've just been through all this and you're just like, fuck, what else can they do, right? I mean, everybody's going to die or someone's going to die. So like at the end of the movie, I was just kind of like, there's nothing else they can do that's going to shock me. You know, I mean, I feel like halfway through the movie, the shock kind of starts to go down a bit, right? That's the worst part, the first half. And then as it goes, you learn more about the story and then you just kind of are along for the ride. As far as, criticisms, I would say the only two criticisms of the film that I would give it are kind of nitpicky stuff. Like the driving scenes were very hokey to me. There was something about the way they filmed those that felt cheap. Parts of the movie did feel a bit telenovela in ways. Like there was something about it that felt a little cheap. But I also realized that that's partly my own xenophobia and sort of, the differences in American filmmaking versus filmmaking in other countries, right? But there were parts of it, even given the different filmmaking styles, that I felt like seemed a little cheaper. It seemed like they put the money really hard into the effects and the kills and stuff, but there were certain ways they did the cinematography and the shots and the driving scenes where I just felt like, I don't know, it felt a little bit low rent and cheap on some of that, but that's really not the big part of the movie. So that's nitpicky. I can't really point that out like it was, a big problem. And there's a lot of themes in this movie. I think the director was saying that initially they just wanted to make a movie that scared people. But there's social themes in this movie. There's things about poverty. There's stuff in there that could probably relate to how the government doesn't care about some people, and some people in smaller areas who are poor are kind of left to their own devices. There's a lot of social, economic elements in there that you can sort of parallel with this film. But it's really solid. I don't know what to really compare it to. It's kind of a similar shocking vibe to like High Tension, Switchblade Romance from 2005, or maybe Martyrs. Kind of a shocking type of film like that. Not the same type of film though, because those are more slasher movies. But a lot of scary stuff in the movie. Actually, the scariest part to me in the whole movie was the autistic kid. Well, first off, when the autistic kid starts talking, and then at the very end, when he's choking and he like looks over at Pedro really quickly and looks back, that was terrifying. Because that was kind of like the director's way of saying, like, he's possessed. He's faking right now. He knows what's happening. He's pretending to still be autistic, right? That was really a very creepy scene, I thought, in the movie. But yeah, overall, I really liked it. I'm curious to see what you guys thought. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, but I think it's definitely a winner for a horror film.
Interesting that you would think that about this movie that I just watched for the first time. And I have to agree, this may be one of the best possession movies I've ever seen.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I disagree with the watching it again, because I absolutely want to watch it again. But the main reason is you have to watch it in subtitles. The whole movie's in Spanish, obviously. It takes place in Argentina, so it makes sense. The box office for this movie was just over $500,000, which is atrocious for how well they did with the subject matter. Possession movies for me tend to fall into the same kind of category. It's one person and somebody's trying to stop them. The only other movie I can think of in recent history that was different and that I absolutely loved was Constantine. But this movie took the whole possession thing and went in a totally different direction. It wasn't that it was the one person possessed and evil was coming through them. It was evil was almost leeching from that one and infecting everybody that he came in contact with. Once he, quote unquote, took possession of the rotten and tried to move it away from that house, the evil followed him. It wasn't still in that body. I mean, the little girl scene with the dog was just horrifying. It was horrifying. It happened just so quick. And the little kid standing at the top of the stairs, just watching it kind of in disbelief, didn't really react at first until you see the dog whip the girl under the table. And that's when the boy realizes something's going on. The woman getting possessed and coming back after her kids. Obviously it's not the woman anymore. She's possessed because she's dead. It's one of those movies that is so unsettling that you're drawn to it, if that makes sense. It's one thing to make a movie that's unsettling to the point to where you want to look away. This movie did such a good job of being unsettling in a way that drew you in more. Like you had to see what was about to happen next. In Terrifier 2, there's the bedroom scene that everybody talks about. I think in this one, if it's not going to be the dog, it'll be the axe scene, which I have here. That was such an insane visual. Her telling him not to shoot the goat, and the goat brays or does whatever goats do sound wise. The guy obviously spooked, shoots it, and then out of nowhere, like I did not expect an axe to come flying off camera and hit this guy in the face. And you think that's it, and then she gets down on her knees and does what she does, and it's so so well acted for something like that. I mean, just the slowing down, as the life's leaving her, to the point to where it's just kind of just tapping until
And she
falls
was
over.
very obviously pregnant, which just makes it that much worse.
Yeah, this movie does such a good job of showing you, just like The Exorcist. The Exorcist did a good job of showing you how evil the possession was to that person. This takes it to like the demon took Red Bull and a snort of cocaine before heading to this village, because he was firing on all cylinders. Even when it got to the school scene, when the cleaner is trying to help the main guy, get rid of the possessed, then they find all the adults under the floorboards of the stage. And that leads me to the last point that I would make about the movie, as far as just how brutal it was. When he finds the body under there, and this is the the quote unquote climax, like this is where you normally in the movie think, okay, this is where it's going to end, it's going to clean. The guy in this movie just made mistake after mistake, and the ultimate mistake at the end took the movie in a completely different direction than any other film like this. Usually the quote unquote protagonist hero wins or finds a way. The Exorcist, the priest ends up saving Reagan. Not here. he falls again for the tricks of evil, goes into the other room to get the axe, and then you hear the thwack, and then just seeing that kid hammer the cleaner in the head as the kids are dragging the body off, and you see him broken just on his knees as evil is born into their world, and the touching of the head, and leaving the blood marks, basically saying, hey, good job, you did exactly what I needed you to do. And the guy just sitting there broken. It's just such a poetic scene in a movie where typically I don't like when evil wins. And I'm not saying I liked that evil won in this. I just think that was such a nice twist for the movie that it was. It was at every turn, it was almost like evil was one step ahead. This guy made mistakes in his past, with his kids, with his wife, and just continued down that path. Like there was no redemption for this person. It wasn't even like he was trying to redeem himself, even being in the beginning, being very resistant to even wanting to help. Which not supposed to be comical, but when they're trying to carry out the rotten and the sheet rips and it just falls on the ground, I kind of chuckled at that. But like John said, this is such a brutal movie. It's so brutal that I actually watched Five Nights at Freddy's right after to cleanse my palate, because I knew that wasn't going to be nearly as dark and ominous and violent and gory as this film was. So big twist from the last couple of movies that we've rated. I absolutely enjoyed every minute of this movie, even with it being in subtitles, which I typically hate. And like I said, that's probably why I'll end up watching it again, because there's so much that I miss when I'm reading what's going on at the bottom. And now that I understand the plot, understand what's going on, can watch and see some of the nuances of the scene. Like I missed the mother getting hit by the truck because I was reading and kind of looking at what else was going on. But yeah, just I'm imagining a shoestring budget. I imagine they didn't have a whole lot of money. They did an incredible job. Fantastic film.
Yeah, well, I'll just piggyback in on what everybody's saying so far. So this director I knew by reputation because of his film Aterrados, known as Terrified and the English translation.
Has anyone else seen that besides me and TJ?
I haven't actually seen it. I just know it by reputation. It's been in my queue for the last couple years, and it was one I was going to watch before this, but then we ended up doing this for the show. So
it's adorable that you'd ask if I'd seen it.
I knew you hadn't. I may be wrong to a degree here, but I think Terrified was scarier than this one, and just because it was more jumpy, like this is just more uncomfortable. Like it makes it's unsettling.
Yeah, this wasn't scary.
Was super creepy. Yeah,
this was just shocking.
That's what I know it for. When people and all the Facebook groups and stuff are talking about top 10 scariest films, that's one that always pops up, which is why it's been in my queue for a while. I meant to get around to watching it this spooky season and just didn't get around to it. It was either that one or this one, and I said I'll go with this one because it's more current. We can do it for the show. But I will watch it probably before the end of the year, just because, especially now, because I think this is probably the scariest, best made and effective horror film of 2023 that I've seen so far, at least. And I'm not, all transparency, I'm not a big fan of overall the possession type subgenre of films, because I feel like almost everything is trying to rip off The Exorcist, which did it really the best of any film, really. The thing that I do like about this is it's almost like a straight horror Spanish version of The Evil Dead. If Evil Dead was played straight horror with no slapstick, no humor, no tongue in cheek, because it is more of that possession evil, demonic evil that just is lurking all around. It lurks, right? And infects people with the evil. And I like just the little hints of the mythology and the lore that they just kind of drop into the story without giving you a big exposition scene or a lot of expository dialogue trying to tell you about what the universe is. They just kind of Star Wars drop you into the universe and just be like, this is a thing, that this is something that people know about, and we're just going to put you into the situation, let you figure it out from the context clues that we give you, which I think is expert storytelling, really. And there's so many brutal kills, I mean, brutal things in this film, but also so many great story points too, like the ending. I don't know how many people noticed it. I've only seen it the once, and I'm sure there'll be more breadcrumbs I see if I watch this in future times. But one of the main character's kids drew a picture about halfway through. It's like, a little kid picture with crayons or whatnot. And it's just of these little kids in a row, and one is red in the middle, and they're just all holding hands like in a field. And then that's foreshadowing the very ending, which is just, I love little things like that where they call the shot and they say, see, we told you what was going to happen. And so many unsettling and brutal things. And I mean, I watched me and Jay both watched this. It was earlier this year. It's the one, is it Beaten to Death? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, and literally that's what it is. That's probably the most uncomfortable I've been watching a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, even with this one, like, that was just, foot on your throat. It didn't let go the entire time. Even at the end, when you think you get some closure, it's gone. Like, they rip it out from under you.
Serbian film's the most uncomfortable film ever.
Well, yeah, I refuse to watch that film out of principle, just from what I know of it. But yeah, other than and I'd seen that film just like a month or two ago, and that is probably the most brutal film I've ever seen. And
did you see that one in theaters?
I saw that in the theater. I was the only person in the theater.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
that's insane.
And man,
I couldn't have watched it.
It was. I mean, it calls it Shot. Spoiler alerts on that film, but it's like, it's a film about a guy getting beaten to death over about 90 minutes, and the end he's beaten to death.
So it's like Casino, the whole thing where Joe Pesci's beaten to death. That's the whole movie. Like, he's just beaten to death.
Well, he gets away. Like, he's blinded and all that, and then he gets away only to get captured again.
Ellen loves eye stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh, the eye stuff's actually one of the best, because I don't know if we'll ever do that film. That film's brutal, but the best eye gag I've ever seen in a film other than a Lucio Fulci film is in that film, because of somehow they had like some sort of material that was almost like you see the puncturing from a first person perspective into the eye until it actually gets blinded. And it is like gag inducing, wincing. It's brutal. Anyway,
me.
but we're not
hate
here
it.
to talk about beaten to death, although I feel like that shares some DNA with When Evil Lurks.
Yeah,
I
100%.
can't really improve upon what everybody else has said about in terms of just the brutality of as soon as you see the pregnant lady, and you know it's the cover art on the streaming and on the poster for the theatrical run, which was a very limited, like 3-week limited towns theatrical run, which is why it made so little money, because it was picked up as a Shudder original. And man, it was just when you see that she's pregnant, you know something bad's gonna happen when they reveal that. And then you already see that she's probably because it's a pregnant lady, where she's holding the axe up at her face on the cover art, you know, that's probably going to end poorly. And then when you see that scene, it's like all bets are off. Like, I'm not in the hands of a trustworthy storyteller here. Like anything can happen, but I still was not prepared for the little girl to get her face eaten by the dog. That still shocked me. That's one of the more shocking things I've seen in a horror film, because it was just, even though I was like, anything can happen, I still didn't expect that to be that brutal. And that's almost more brutal that she comes back and you know that she's possessed. Because nobody could have survived having their face eaten by the dog. But then, like, moments later, you get shocked by the mom getting totally creamed by the truck. You know, once this thing gets going, like that first half, I don't know if there's been a more brutal first 40-45 minutes of the film than this film in terms of the shock value. And I agree with, I think, what John said. It kind of tapers down because they shock you all the ways they can shock you in the first half, and then they start to make more sense of what exactly is happening with the narrative and the plot on the back end. Still some brutal scenes, but they don't let the narrative get in the way of getting you invested in these characters. I think the most chilling thing, and somebody said earlier, was when the autistic child just starts talking to the grandma in perfect English, because it was nonverbal before, and that's just, it's so creepy. Other than a few of the brutal things that just make you wince, there's not a lot of jump scares really. There's a few things that take you off guard, but it's really just more of unsettling film. So because of that, the rewatchability is that, and the subtitles, for us not being fluent in Spanish, obviously, none of us at least, that probably hurts the replayability for it. But I do agree with John. I see this film getting remade in the next 5 to 10 years for sure, especially if it does well on Shudder, which it seems to be doing gangbusters on streaming. So, and as rightfully it should. It's got a 7.1 on IMDb right now. His first film, Terrified's got a 6.5. So I don't know where that'll land, if it'll stay higher over the years or not. But it's definitely got me excited to go back and see Terrified now, even more than I was already hyped. I will definitely see that soon. And I'll probably watch, because of this, I'll probably watch anything this guy makes to give it at least a once off shot. But yeah, just a very well crafted, probably on a low shoestring budget. I mean, it's mostly just people driving and out, like in remote locations and houses and stuff, and like an abandoned schoolhouse at the end. And you know, that's super cheap to make, other than a few special effects makeup shots. And what they did with that lady's face was really well done. And brutal. And the fact that she manages to muster enough strength to hit herself in the face with an axe like 4 times, Like you'd think one would do it, but no, she just like you see the effects of it, like she's cutting up a pumpkin. But man, what do you think about it, Jay?
Well, you guys already know how I feel about it, but this episode is definitely brought to you by the letter B, as in brutal, because we've all said brutal, and that's because this movie truly is brutal. I hope they don't remake it. There's some things out there we should just leave alone, and I think this is one of them. We may not realize it yet, but we should. Train to Busan was probably another one that they're remaking anyways, but super brutal movie, and it does taper off because the dog scene, after that scene, it's all downhill from there. Like that gave us something probably we've never seen before. We weren't necessarily expecting. I know what I was expecting. If you can see behind me, it's one of the promo photos is the little girl and the dog. So you guys know me well enough, and I'll be judged for this, but movies where I know a dog is going to get hurt or killed, I stay away from it. That ruins me. It's just my mind and how I am. So seeing that promo photo that I have behind me, that told me, okay, I know what this movie is generally about. I know that there's a dog involved. It's probably not going to end well for the dog. So this movie has been available through certain channels that John, Kellen, and I use, but I've put it off because of that very reason, because that dog, in my mind, something bad is going to happen. Now, something bad did happen, but not to the dog. It was rough. One of the roughest kills I've ever seen in a movie. And just because like the little girl turns into a toy in like no time, like just getting flung around, very hard to watch. I was still relieved that the dog didn't die. Sorry.
Didn't they shoot the dog?
Did they shoot the dog? I don't know if they did or not, but
Yeah,
I didn't
the guy
see.
shoots it twice.
I don't know if he kills it though. He shoots it.
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, the dog was possessed too, so who knows what kills him.
Right. But what I expected didn't happen, and I was okay with that. The axe scene, which we've all touched on, is probably my favorite kill until the dog one. That was wild. And it's just one of those unsettling movies. And that whole scene where he's looking at the goat, it's just so, it makes you feel so funny inside. You know, you get that pit in your stomach and you're like, what is about to happen? We've mentioned the Rotten. If you're not familiar with that, the Rotten, it's a being that's unborn, that's trying to be physically birthed into the world, which is what this creature is, this demon is. And the guys, bless their hearts, they try their best, but they just can't save the town, save themselves, possibly the world. But we talked about Talk to Me, and I'm not sure when this episode is going to release, but we're recording this the week that Talk to Me came out. It was 3-1. We didn't like it. My biggest reasoning for that was the hype that I received from that movie. Like, you've got, this movie's amazing, you got to see it. That ruined it for me in a sense. This is another movie that was hyped like crazy. Like, everybody's like, oh my God, like, it's so brutal. Like, all these other filmmakers and actors like, this is such a great movie. I'm like, I don't know. It's a little overhyped. It's subtitled. There's possibly a dog death. So again, drug my feet. And then it was, all the hype was real. Like, to me, this 100% met the hype. If nothing else, it needed to be hyped up more. I've talked to you guys about The Covenant and Sissy, which I watched this weekend. Both movies, I can't hype those enough. John, you watched The Covenant today. You loved it. There's just some movies that are hyped up, and they should be. And to me, this is one of them. I enjoyed Terrified. I watched that probably last year for the first time, and it is generally creepy, creepier than this. So I was excited when I saw that Runga was the guy who directed this too, because I know what he can do already. I know how he made me feel in Terrified. So if you haven't seen that, I think it's still on Shudder. I think it was a Shudder original. So definitely go watch that one too. But this is my favorite horror movie of the year. Right now, I don't even think it's close. I have to go back and look at some others, but I haven't seen a movie this year after I watched it, and I just wanted to tell everybody about it, or show them specific scenes from it. Like, I haven't had that this year, I don't think. So I was blown away by it. I watched it on my iPad, so I would like to watch it again in the dark on a television and actually focus. Most, I wear hearing aids, so I'm not that great at hearing anyway. So I'm always reading subtitles, but it does 100% take away from what you're watching, because I'm looking down and I'm not seeing what's necessarily going on up top. So I would like to watch it again and not pay attention to the dialogue, just watch it for what it is, because there's a lot of good creepy visuals in it, and just the atmosphere. The whole atmosphere is dread. It's all dread from start to finish. Like, it's just so thick in the air that you can't move. So it really made an impact on me. You felt it popping off the screen. You cringed. Kellen laughed because he's a sociopath. And then, like, it gave you all these feelings that the movie should give you. And I absolutely loved it. So we'll go around to our favorite kills and our rankings. Favorite kills, I think, probably be one or the other. But like I said, I think the axe scene was number one until the dog scene. I think that was going to be my saying favorite kill when a kid got their face ripped off is not necessarily the right terminology, but it is what it is. So my favorite kill will be the dog scene. As far as rankings, I gave it a 5. Like, you talked about rewatchability, and I totally understand that. Subtitles are hard for some people. It's a turnoff. I completely get that. But I say watch it once, read, watch it twice, and watch, and it makes a huge difference. So I would watch this again over and over again. When we decided to do this one, I'm like, yes, like that gives me a reason to watch it again, even though I watched it like 5 days ago. I was already ready to watch it again because I just enjoyed it so much. So 5 stars for me. John?
Yeah, I agree about the hype. I kind of went into this thinking it was going to be overhyped because that's kind of what's happened now with a lot of films in the past 5 years, but it really did deliver. It's definitely, I didn't personally love it and rewatch. As far as rewatchability, buying it, liking it, probably not, but it's a great film. It is probably the best horror film of 2023. My favorite is probably still Sick, the slasher film that came out in January. I'm a sucker for slashers and all that. So that's just kind of like not the best. This is better than that movie, but I really like that movie. Yeah, I think as far as favorite kill, probably the axe to the face. Although the one thing that really got me too was when the brother goes to look for the kid that gets stolen out of the house by the possessed mom, and the mom's pulling the brains out and eating it. I was like, oh, that's brutal. So I would say overall rating, a solid 4 out of 5 for sure. I would take a point off just for little minor nitpicky things, but 4 out of 5 for sure.
I liked Sick too, but it just felt, I don't know, they didn't build any new bridges or anything, like it was just that same cliche slasher from Kevin Williamson. It felt like a Scream movie to me, like just a more central location Scream flick. But yeah, that was good for sure. All right, Kellen.
Yeah, that axe scene is just so iconic to me. It's hard to pick one other than that. But I will say, because it was such a shocking scene for me, it's the cleaner getting killed by the kids, because it happens so quick. It's just, that's probably, aside from the dog scene, that's probably the most shocking thing in the movie to me, is she's getting everything set up. Those kids are 20 feet away staring at her. The guy goes into the other room, can't find the axe. He turns around, hears the thwack, and then looks out, and it shows her look over at him as they're dragging her, and that girl just keeps hitting her in the head. That was just that's one of those ones that'll stay with you, just like the axe scene.
That one was very rough. Very rough.
Yeah. Just because, even in the axe scene, it's pulled back, so you're not really seeing much after the first strike. When it shows her from the front, it kind of shows from the side, and then it's just, the thought of that is brutal. But yeah, just watching her look at him after she told him, they're tricking you, they're lying, those are not kids anymore. Look what they did to these adults that are under the floorboard. Why are you going into the other room to get an axe? Just stay here and help me fix this. And then bam, gone. The only hope for salvation gone. Ratings, I'm gonna go with John. I'm usually tight with my ratings just because, in the 5 scale, it's hard to put certain movies real high when there's other movies that you put it a 5. A 4 is not that far off from a 5 on a 5 scale. So as far as that goes, this one I'm giving a solid 4. Like I said, I definitely want to watch it again now that I can kind of more or less watch the movie and not read the movie. just to see some more of the visuals. But yeah, solid 4.
TJ.
Yeah, I think we're getting some similar themes here. I think the most iconic kill that aesthetically will linger in the mind is the axe to the face, for sure. I mean, they made it the poster for a reason. But I think my favorite, because it shocked me so much, was the dog killing the kid. Because, kids, anything with kids and animals are usually no-nos and normal, safe horror films, like mainstream. And this lets you know that's not the kind of film this is, which I love. I think I'm gonna have to go with 4.5 on this one. I don't give out a lot of 5s. I think I've only given 5s to 1 or 2 films, and John Carpenter's Halloween being the god tier, as we say. This I will definitely revisit, but because of the brutality of it and the subtitles, I probably won't revisit it as much as some others. But that's not because it's not great. It is great. It's so great, it makes me not want to watch it like multiple times a year. So that's where I stand.
So that averaged us up to about a 4, which is fair. Is it weird to say this falls in line with my comfort films like Terrifier 2 and House of a Thousand Corpses? Like, I think it will. I think it does. I don't know what that says about me, but anyways. All right, so 4.375. So that's a 4 for When Evil Lurks. I think we all highly recommend watching this movie. It will not be for everyone. I think the tomato score is 99 and 52. Like, it's fresh among critics. It's rotten among the common folk like us, but that's because subtitles probably part of it, and the brutality. Like, if you don't know what you're going into, I mean, you're fucked. Like, it's not gonna let up from your throat. But I highly recommend it. I highly recommend Terrified as well. All right, so that's going to do it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to wherever you're listening to this podcast. Follow us on Instagram, and if you have Amazon Music, we have a playlist over there featuring music and artists from previous episodes. I'm not sure what we're going to be doing next week, but come on back. I'm sure it'll be fun. Honestly, I kind of want another one like Talk to Me, where 3 of us are just like, no, fuck that film, and then one was like, it's okay. Like, that was fun. Like, I don't think we've really had one like that so far, so that was fun to do that. So, all right, so signing off, I'm Jay with John, Kellen, and TJ, and until next time,
keep it spooky, and also lock up your axes.
and someone get me Bo Svensson's phone number.
How do you guys think the cleaning machine worked? Because it was very complex. Was it like supposed to drain out?
It looked like an old like astrology type.
Well, I'm wondering if that was like a protection thing, because she had that like knife thing that she said had to be stabbed into the nape of their neck. So I'm wondering if that maybe this is like a rudimentary Ghostbusters ghost trap kind of thing. Like, stab it in the neck, it releases the spirit, and that thing pulls it in. We never got to find out because those kids weren't having it.
It's the 3 seashells all over again from Demolition Man.
Yeah, it looked like
somebody needs to ask Rob Schneider how to use the 3 seashells.
It looks like some old
seashells
device from like Christian Scientists from turn of the century, or like Maria Blavatsky, or some of that weird spiritualism type stuff.
It's hard, and I've talked about this before. It's hard to make a movie nowadays that brings something new to the table, because it feels like at this point, especially in horror, everything's been done. But this movie brought so many new things. I mean, just the brutality. Like I said, usually the possessed person is the main centerpiece of a possession film. It rotates around that person, and while technically it did in this one, the possession happened everywhere but with the rot until it got to the end.
This was almost like Evil Dead meets Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
Or
I can see that.
Evil Dead meets The Omen, as far as Damien
Yeah,
being born,
that
the evil
too.
being
Yeah.
born. Like,
That too.
Or The Brood.
Yeah, I loved when the thing just kind of
That's
pops
creepy.
up out of the stage, like his head. He just, bam! It's
Yeah.
I had just watched this movie, but I kind of forgot about that hammer part, and that was rough.
That was brutal.
Because the little girl's
Yeah.
just looking at her, right? Like,
yeah,
Mhm.
she looks at the guy, and then she goes back and starts hitting her in the head again.
yeah, that was rough.
It's like,
Watch,
golly.
if you can handle another subtitle movie, watch Terrified. I think it's a lot scarier.
I still need to watch Parasite. Speaking of
Parasite is
subtitle movies.
amazing. That's God tier for me. But yeah, all right. Well, you're welcome. I feel like I jump started you guys to watch this movie a little bit quicker than you were planning, but you're welcome.
There was no hype for me because I hadn't even heard of it until
You're like,
until
what
it
is
was
this?
mentioned for this.
I was definitely gonna watch it before Halloween just because of all that I heard about it. So I'm glad we were able to do this one so quickly.
Dylan,
So
was
thanks,
gonna
Bo.
wait.
Thanks, Bo.
did you like Five Nights at Freddy's, Kellen?
I did like
It was fun.
it was super predictable. Like, I mean, I knew the policewoman was the
Oh, don't spoil it. I ain't watched it yet.
well,
I've been holding off on it.
I knew the
Mustache
policewoman
dick.
had a gun and a badge because she's a policewoman.
right. Yeah.
I without giving anything away, I liked it. I think the
Again.
acting in it was good. I think the guy that played PETA from Hunger Games, whatever his name is, he's
Oh yeah.
Josh,
he's a good
Hutcherson.
actor. He needs more roles and stuff.
Yeah, he's kind of disappeared since then.
Jay,
He
shut
doesn't
your
make
poor
you want to
mouth.
punch him looking at him though.
He's
Just-
okay. I mean, I don't
No,
mind him too bad.
I
He's
think
all right.
he's a better actor than the roles he gets.
Yeah, that's probably
Um,
true.
And his I liked that in the story arc of him, it was different. Again,
Right.
I like when there's originality, and his whole story arc was very unique.
So that was set
especially
in
for
the
this
year-
kind of movies. this
That
kind
was
of
set in the year 2000. So the game is set in the 90s, and this movie they close it in the 80s, but it's 2000 apparently because I was kind of sitting there. I was like, this doesn't look like the 90s, but the DVD player on the TV was the giveaway apparently. But
Yeah.
I don't know why they did the 80s. I guess they just thought it'd be creepier to.
We should do an episode on this why it's hot too, because that'll get us some
And it
eyes.
was nice to see Matthew Lillard again.
Yeah.
He's an oft forgot actor.
He did a video
somebody-
thanking everybody from watching it. Like, he seemed like very humble that he
I would love to meet him at a con. Any video you see where he does when he does a convention, he seems like just like the most genuine. He reminds me of the guy that plays Daryl Dixon. I can never remember his name. Norman Reedus.
Norman Reedus.
Yeah.
Norman Reedus. If you've ever been to a con where he was at, he looks like he's having the most fun
Yeah.
with random people.
Super
And that's
nice
what Matthew
guy.
Lillard looks like too. He looks like he just enjoys being.
Also, low
around
key,
people.
a super good actor. Has anybody ever seen SLC Punk?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Great film.
All right. I'm gonna go eat dinner. We should look at Five Nights at Freddy's. TJ, you're the only one who hasn't seen it.
I'm gonna watch it soon. So
That'd be a
I
fun
mean,
one.
we got time. Like, we could even push this one back to the new year and do this in December, but we'll figure it out. I just think that'll get us a little extra eyes right now. because
Yeah.
You don't want to do this one as a Christmas episode?
I mean,
Well-
Five Nights at Freddy's made like 140 million at the box office.
Yeah,
Wow.
we'll have
And that's
to,
probably a lot of parents taking their kids, not realizing it's how
Yeah.
violent it's going to be.
Yeah.
We'll have to
It-
talk
it
about
has,
the
It has
Christmas.
a great visual in it that I really loved. I won't talk about it, but the shadow was a beautiful visual to me.
It's
Mhm.
gonna be hard to dethrone the Nick Cage version of that movie for me because I really like that movie.
Wow.
Wally's
Hey, the best
Wonderland.
part of that movie was Nick Cage getting drunk on whatever soda that was while playing pinball.
Playing
while
pinball,
people are
yeah.
fighting the machine.
Oh, this is getting a sequel. 20 million budget, 219 gross. Oh yeah.
Already?
Yeah,
It
it's-
made
yeah,
like
they've already
140 in
greenlit.
the
I'm
first
pretty
week.
sure they greenlit the sequel the day after it came out.
Well, you
And the
can have
Mission-
as
the
many
last
nights
Mission
at Freddy's
Impossible.
as you want, right? They're like possessed.
And I think the last Mission Impossible is doing good to break even.
Yeah.
This-
So I'm hoping. So one of Mondays is the Christmas day, so we won't do an episode that week. So we'll do Christmas the week before. We can talk about. I'm hoping to get Greg Sestro on. We'll see. If not,
Have
we
you
can just-
heard anything from him anytime lately?
No. He hasn't even read my message.
He's
so.
giving you the bow treatment.
Yeah, he's like that. I don't think he gets on social media very often, but if not, we'll do like we did last year, where we just each come up with like 2 movies and spin a wheel, and whichever one it is. But we'll get there if we need to.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
We definitely need a Christmas episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to nominate Jack Frost. So
I'm
With
here. for
Michael Keaton, great film.
Jack
I'm
Frost
out.
will be a fun one.
Seen Jack Frost too. See you, Jay.
Bye.
See y'all.